If you absolutely love the rich, buttery feel of oil paints, but just can't stand those headache-inducing fumes, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down how you can create a healthier, happier, and completely solvent-free studio.
I mean, there's just nothing quite like oil paint, is there? You've got that buttery texture, the slow drying time that lets you create these beautiful, soft blends, and the colors are just incredibly rich. It's what artists have loved for centuries, for sure. Ah, yes, and there's the catch. For all its beauty, the traditional way of oil painting comes with a very real downside. Those powerful and, frankly, potentially harmful solvents you need for thinning paints and especially for cleaning up. And this really brings us to what I call the painter's dilemma. You want those incredible results that only oil paints can deliver, but dealing with all those harsh chemicals, it can be unpleasant, unhealthy, and honestly, a huge barrier to just getting in there and being creative.
So what's the big deal with these solvents anyway? Well, traditional turpentine comes from pine resin, and it can really irritate your skin. And even the stuff called odorless mineral spirits, or OMS, still releases what are known as volatile organic compounds, VOCs, into the air as they evaporate. This isn't just bad for the air in your studio and your long-term health, it's also not great for the environment.
But what if I told you that you could clean your brushes without any of that stuff? Our first solution is so simple, and it uses something you definitely already have in your studio: oil itself.
This analogy just nails it. It perfectly captures the logic here. Oil paint is basically just pigment floating in oil. And what's the best thing to dissolve oil? Well, it's more oil. It sounds kind of backwards, I know, but trust me, it's incredibly effective.
So here's how you do it. First, just get as much paint off your brush as you can with a paper towel. Really squeeze it out. Next, you're going to dip the brush into a little jar of drying oil and work that oil through the bristles with a clean towel. For any stubborn pigments hiding in there, you can just gently bounce the brush on the bottom of the container to loosen it all up. And then finally, at the end of the day, a simple wash with good old soap and water will leave your brushes perfectly clean and even conditioned.
Now, here are a few key tips to make this work perfectly for you. It is absolutely crucial that you use a drying oil, like linseed or safflower. Why? Because any oil that's left in the bristles is going to become part of your next painting, so it needs to dry properly along with everything else. And get this method is also super sustainable. You just let the pigment gunk settle to the bottom of your jar, and you can pour the clean oil right off the top to use again. Sure, it takes a little more patience than using solvents, but the payoff is a totally fume-free workspace.
Okay, now for our second solution. Let's take a look at a really cool modern innovation in paint technology itself: water-mixable oils. Let me be clear, water-mixable oils, or WMOs, are real oil paints. They're made with pigment and a modified oil binder, just like the traditional stuff. The magic ingredient is an added emulsifier, and that's what allows the oil to mix with water. Think of how egg yolk works as an emulsifier in mayonnaise. It's the same idea. So they're not water-based, they're water-mixable. That's a key difference. So let's just put them side by side. With traditional oils, you're using solvents to thin the paint and for that initial cleanup. With WMOs, you use water. And the cleanup for WMOs? Just soap and water. That's it. Done. The main difference you'll feel is that WMOs can get a little sticky or tacky when you thin them with just water, whereas traditional oils always keep that buttery feel.
So the takeaway here is pretty straightforward. The pros are huge. No solvents. Super easy cleanup. The cons are really just about the feel of the paint and some quirks, like certain white paints taking forever to dry. But here's the best pro tip. Think of them as water cleanable, not just water mixable. For the best painting experience, use the special mediums designed for them. That'll give you a beautiful flow, and just save the water for your cleanup.
Now, no matter which solvent-free method you choose, there is one timeless rule of oil painting that you absolutely, positively must follow if you want your work to last for centuries, and it's called fat over lean. The rule itself is simple. Fatter layers always go on top of leaner layers. Now, fat just means the paint has more oil in it, which makes it more flexible as it dries. Lean means less oil, which makes it more brittle. If you put a lean, brittle layer over a fat, flexible layer, well, that is just a recipe for cracking.
And this chart shows you exactly what we're talking about. You can see how different pigments have different amounts of oil. So colors like titanium zinc white are really lean, while phthalo colors are pretty fat. And then look all the way down here at lampblack. It's super fat, loaded with oil, which means it should pretty much always be used in the top layers of a painting. This quote from Ralph Mayer's classic book, The Artist's Handbook, is the perfect way to picture this.
The fat bottom layer is like a sheet of rubber. It keeps shifting and shrinking for a long time as it dries. If you put a brittle, lean layer on top of that, any movement is going to cause it to crack and just flake right off.
So when do you really need to worry about this? Well, it's most critical when you're painting in layers and letting each one dry before you add the next. If you're painting alla prima, or wet into wet, all the paint just kind of mixes together and dries as one single film, so the rule is way less of a concern.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. You now have the tools you need to create your ideal solvent-free studio. But before we finish up, there is one final, and I mean absolutely critical warning that we need to talk about.
So to recap, you really have two clear paths forward. You can take the traditionalist path, keep the paints you already love, and just change your cleaning process, or you can take the modernist path and switch over to new technology for a totally streamlined water cleanable system. Honestly, they're both excellent options.
And here it is, the warning. This applies to any kind of oil painting. As drying oils like linseed oil cure and oxidize, they actually generate heat. And if you have a pile of oily rags all wadded up together, that heat can build and build until the rags literally catch on fire all by themselves. This is a very real and a very serious fire hazard.
So let's lock in this safety protocol. It's really simple. 1. Get a covered metal can for all your used rags. 2. At the end of every single session, drench those rags in water. This stops that heat-generating reaction in its tracks. And 3. Get that sealed container out of your studio or your home every day. Do not let them pile up.
So there you have it, two fantastic paths to a safer, more pleasant way to paint, and the knowledge to make sure your masterpieces and your studio stand the test of time. The only question left is, which path are you going to choose?